Hi, what's your name?
My name's Ruin, Neko or Cat, depending on the circumstances.
And what are those different circumstances?
Ruin is my chosen name, changed by deed poll. Neko is a pet name that my close friends occasionally use for me, and Cat is sort of like an internet handle kind of thing.
Oh, nice. And when did you change your name to Ruin?
It would have been back in 2021, I think. September 2021. It's been a few years now.
Why did you change your name?
So it was a name I'd been going by for quite some time, and I felt it was about time that I made that change because it made me feel more like me.
And who are you?
I am a trans, femme, queer, non-binary, pansexual individual.
Oh, nice. And when did you figure that?
Still in the process.
Do you support the other people in that community?
Oh, I support everyone, like, regardless. You know, as long as they're good to you, be good to them kind of dealio, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Spread the love, spread the love.
So does this mean you're part of the LGBTQ+?
Yeah. I tend to just see things just like, I feel very much like part of the queer community, which, you know, obviously falls into the LGBT side of things, and it's just like, I'm very much just like pro sort of like queer and like divergent identities and people being whoever they want to be, regardless of, you know, who that is.
Do you support a lot of the LGBT stuff, or is there some parts where you're like, actually this is a bit...
So I do a lot of stuff with the LGBT community because I do some volunteer work as well with the LGBT Foundation based over in Manchester. Mostly we're doing sexual health advice and stuff with them. But there's obviously always parts of any like grouping where you will have like bad apples, because you will get people who, whether it's through mental health, lack of education, will always cause like a friction in places. And obviously I think that it's easy to forget in some situations that you have to meet people halfway, that it's important that, you know, if you come across someone who, you know, you just have a disagreement with, you kind of have to accept that where they're failing to understand you isn't necessarily that they're against you, it's just that they don't understand you. And, you know, if you just rile up against them, then you aren't giving that person the opportunity to learn, you're just going to give them more reasons not to. And so it's important to try and find safe ways to meet that middle ground where you can help educate people who may generally be happier once they have a better understanding of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like try and help people get an understanding of what it is. Like especially those ones that kind of are against it quite a lot, teaching them actually is not as bad as you're making it seem to be.
Because I have like quite a lot of online presence, not a huge amount, I am like probably a nano celebrity at best. But you know, I get interactions from people who like their politics online is very much against, like it feels very against me and my identity, but they'll talk to me and they'll like, you know, have discussions with me, and it's just like, cool, so and I'll say to them, it's like, you do realise like what you're promoting on your account is very against, you know, people of my identity, people who live their lives like me. And they more often than not have turned around to me and they've been like, oh, I'm not like against you people, I just, you know, don't want it shoved down people's throats in this way and that. And it becomes very clear that they're coming from a place of where they don't really understand it, where their view on how it's being spread isn't really matching with reality, that they're like failing to kind of find their own way within it.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just teaching people a lot of what it is.
In a safe and respectful manner both ways. You know, some people, if they fight against you too much, you have to know when to be like, okay, this isn't a situation that I have the ability to do anything with, I need to step away.
Okay. But do you support everything to do with Gay Pride Month, or is that something where you're like, this is a bit...
So Pride I have mixed feelings on. Pride should be protest. I'm very much for the Pride should be protest angle. You know, it's about kind of celebrating the like struggle and difficulty that has allowed us to get to where we are now. And not forgetting that. A bit like how people still do Memorial Day and stuff like the war. Like, Pride should have an element of that to it, where it is, respecting and remembering the struggle that we have gone through to get to the point where we are now, and the continued struggle going forward, whilst we still try and get things legislated and approved and accepted and normalised in a way that they already should be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Pride can often be, especially in some of the bigger cities, especially in some of the more corporate cities, it gets very hijacked by just corporations just basically doing a PR brand like dealio. And that's a shame to see. There's still a lot of people partying and having fun, but that lack of history that sometimes comes into it in the broader picture of it is just a little unfortunate, and it's probably something I would like to see more of.
Yeah. I did want to ask, what are your pronouns?
Oh, so I use they, them and she, her.
And what are your understandings of the different pronouns?
So the reason I use they, them and she, her is I kind of just use they, them in general for everyone. It's nice, it's neutral. If I'm referring to someone, I will often just use they or them because it just fits really nicely in the conversation. It's formal, it's especially in an office environment or somewhere like that, I feel like it's almost more appropriate. It's formal, it's taking you're not diminishing that person down in any way, you're just allowing them to be them. But I like to present quite femininely and express myself in that manner, so I also use she and her pronouns in certain contexts.
So what was it like when you came out to your parents and your family? Were they...
Well, I feel like I have come out 3 times to my parents. I came out to my parents when I was in my early 20s, and they all thought I was just gay. And I kind of just went with that as the vibe. And I didn't really have to come out then. They were just like, oh yeah, of course, this makes perfect sense. And it just kind of carried on with nothing really changing. I then came out to my parents as trans. The first time I came out to my mum about it, she wasn't particularly supportive, but that was back in 2016. Since coming out to her again, over the last couple of years, she's now very on board because things have progressed and the general culture is a bit more understanding. So my mum's like, oh yeah, I've always accepted you. But it's like, honey, let's go back a few years and remember what it was like back then. We're not going to just ignore that. And yeah, my dad was very, very supportive, and my mum is now. But then I also had to come out to my parents as a sex worker, so I feel like that was really the third one. And I think at that point they were just like, yeah, this tracks. They were like, yeah, as long as you're safe and happy, then you do you. And I was just like, cool, cheers, Mum. But Dad was like, oh, that's really cool, how's it going? And I was just like, how do I phrase this information? But even my gran even knows, so it's just how it goes. So yeah, so they got better. The first one wasn't really a thing. The second one was hey, everyone seems to be relatively on board. And then the third one was cool, my life choices are my own now.
When did you officially start transitioning?
So probably my second year of uni at Nottingham back in 2015. And that was sort of just realising that I liked to dress femininely and wearing makeup, and sort of getting used to it, shaving my body hair, doing all of that sort of stuff. Hormonal transition, it took me a little bit longer. I've only been on hormones properly, prescribed for about 3 years now. And that basically means I started them when I was 27, and I'm 30 now, so it's going well. So yeah, my hormones is a lot of work. You really have to go through a long process of going through different hormones and seeing what works for you, and it's a really difficult process because you don't know what right feels like until you're there, and it's a lot of self-doubt and infighting at that stage whilst you're figuring out what you actually want to get out of them, what is you, because you're changing as you're going through that process, so what you want out of them can sort of change as you eventually find the point that makes you happy being you.
Is it a painful process, or is it one where...
It's a process with a lot of struggle in it. It's why it's quite important to have people around you who do support you and can help you through that process. It's something... When I was younger, I self-prescribed, and I was very alone at that time and didn't really have many people to support me. And so going through that process basically by myself and with my boyfriend, who wasn't really good at being a boyfriend, that was a very difficult process at that time in my life.
What do you think made it most difficult? Not having the support, doing it by yourself, was that... quite
feeling
low.
like not knowing where I was wanting to go with it, not feeling like I was getting where I thought I wanted to go with it quickly enough. Just, yeah, not knowing what was me, which bits weren't me, which bits were just my mental health issues, not being able to distinguish, myself in that situation because I had no one to reflect off around me.
Looking back at it now, though, does it feel worth going through that?
The initial, when I was self-describing, I could have done without that process and just, had more medical care from earlier on, would have been great. But, the last few years, I've really, really felt worth it. And it's amazing, what different things have an effect on you. There was on hormones for a lot of it, but then I got my, facial hair removed, laser removal on my facial hair. And that probably made more difference than anything else I had up to that point. That and changing my name in the same year, and it's just wow, I feel confident in myself in a way I've never felt before.
But if there was someone out there who wanted to do it, what would your suggestions to them be?
It takes time, and to not rush it, and to sort of try and build yourself into a position where it is something you feel able to work towards, even if it still feels like you're not perfectly there, that there's things that you would like to get in place. You kind of have to accept it's not going to be perfect at the time when you can take those steps. And it's about taking the steps that make you feel comfortable now as well. Hormones is only one avenue, laser stuff is only one avenue. There's different things that different people can do that get them the feeling that they want out of it. And it's important to, work with what you have in front of you at the time.